Stop and Think 2019. My safety topic today will be a re-emphasis on the components of risk, and that is hazard and exposure. So risk really exists at the point where a person comes in contact with a task, and that's where you need to focus your energies on trying to mitigate risk. The agenda for 2019 Stop and Think: a little introduction, a message from Ken Roebuck, look over some statistics and then initiatives, a radiation safety update. There's some normalization of deviance videos that will not be included in this component of the training. If you desire to see that, let me know. We'll make that available. And then some closing remarks and signing the safety charter. So why do we do Stop and Think? We've made a commitment to never again let the incident of 2014 and the death at the Irwin facility, and we'll do everything in our power to prevent anything like that from happening again. Today's Stop and Think training will further strengthen our resolve to continually strive for safety excellence at all times in all that we do. Now, an introductory message from Ken Roebuck.
Hello, this is Ken Roebuck, President and CEO of Energy Solutions. I want to take this opportunity to kick off the 2019 Stop and Think safety presentation. Thanks to each of you for your hard work and dedication to safety. We are an outstanding organization with a reputation for putting safety first in all that we do. We know that our employees are our most valuable resource, and we are committed to the highest level of workplace safety to ensure every employee returns home each day unharmed. During today's presentation, you will be introduced to Mike Mullane, a former Air Force pilot and NASA Space Shuttle astronaut. Mike was with NASA during the Challenger disaster in 1986 and participated in the investigation that followed. One of the key findings from this investigation was the normalization of deviance associated with the failure of the solid rocket booster O-rings. Having worked in this industry for over 30 years, I know firsthand that normalization of deviance is a real concern and something we should all strive to identify and avoid at every opportunity. As employees, it is our responsibility to always follow established procedures and processes, never taking shortcuts in the work we do. Mike does a great job of reviewing the events leading up to the Challenger disaster, and I think we can all learn valuable lessons from today's presentation. Looking back at our 2018 Employee Safety Perception Survey results, there are still some of our employees who believe that, at times, we place production ahead of safety. I want to take this opportunity to reaffirm to everyone at Energy Solutions that safety is a core value of this company and not just a program, promotion, or initiative. It's fundamental to who we are and what we stand for and forms the basis of all our decisions and actions at all times. One of the areas Mike Mullane will discuss with us is schedule pressure and the negative effects of schedule pressure on production demands. I know that we are very busy at all our locations and are working hard to achieve our company goals and objectives. To this point, schedule pressure can be real or perceived and can come from both management and from our own individual drive to complete tasks on time. Again, please be assured that I have directed my management team to be conscientious of this phenomenon and to reaffirm our commitment to working safely or not at all. Every employee has the right to never do any work they feel unsafe. I continue to urge you that if you don't fully understand the hazards associated with the task at hand or have concerns about the appropriate controls to mitigate those hazards, stop the task and get clarification on how to proceed safely. Thank you again for all your efforts to make 2018 a success, and I look forward to working with you for an even better 2019.
We'll look at some safety statistics. So as a company, we had 15 recordables in 2017. We had 17 in 2018. We had a goal of 0.9 for 2018 as a rate, and we ended up in December with a 1.31. As a site, we had one OSHA recordable in 2018, and that yielded a end of year rate of 2.3. This shows the last 2014 through 18 recordable rate, and as you with a goal of 0.9, and as you can see, we've dipped below that one time. Here's where the recordable injuries were by body part. And here are total injuries by body part. Of course, this includes first aids. And as you will notice, a lot of the majority are from hands, and that makes sense because we have opposing thumbs and do work mainly with our hands. This shows the injuries for 2018 by cause. And these are our worker compensation statistics from 13 through 18 by the mechanism of injury. And like the previous slide, you can see that struck into or by object is the leading cause during that period of time. And by the, I guess, what would you call it, burnt orange of that, the top of that shows that that was the case again in 2018. The injuries by body part, this was year-to-date November through November, again as a summary, and you can see the largest majority and where they occurred over time. Of course, our goal is 0, and our rate increased in 2018, so we are always looking for ways to improve our safety performance, and those some of the considerations are listed on this slide. Unsafe acts versus unsafe conditions. So reviewing of this data, the injury data by corporate determined that the primary root cause of the injuries were unsafe acts. And statistics nationally kind of bear that out. They're not intentional, and the bottom bullet shows some of the ways that we can mitigate the risk of these kind of injuries. I will note that the injury that we had in 2018 at ERS, in my opinion, was a 50-50 of act versus condition. Obviously, you have to be there for it to impart an injury to an individual, but it was a well-known physical hazard that we had not addressed or mitigated. Last year's safety initiatives, the safety perception survey, which we went over recently, that was done internally and had 40 questions in 6 categories. As a company, this is the level of participation and how it was sliced into various components. We're one of the 12 OWM groups. You see here on this slide a summary of the significant findings for us as a company overall. Again, I think the main thing to point out here is that the majority of the responses indicate we have strong safety performance and good culture. And 5 questions, so 12.5% were in the moderate category, and 3 were indicated a need for priority attention. The bottom kind of shows how it fell out in terms of groupings, highest and lowest. So the path going forward, of course, this is an annual event at this point. So we had our survey results and communicated them, put together an action plan, and then have that in our 2019 goals. For ERS, you can see that the score result by group, and with different levels of participation, or I guess percent positive, with let's see, 72 physical hazards conditions being the lowest, and let's see, 90 training being the highest, and then other areas of the 6 areas in between. So our path forward for this year is to make sure we continue to do those things that are positive in our safety culture, and I think we have a lot of things, most things are positive. And then we've thought about looking for this year as to as we've addressed it before, to see what if we can influence our perception of recognition and reinforcement for safety performance. Next one is the new safety audit process. This is primarily a corporate initiative, but assessments done, audits done at the site. It's a new process targeted in the 4 areas you see there on the slide, and those will change year over year. They conducted 8 audits. 7 were at operational waste management sites, including Irwin and Hittman operations. Of course, these go into our CR system and are tracked until we close the findings. On the safety part of the audit, well, for the audit period, we had 7 best practices. We had discussion about fatality prevention. I think that's one of the big benefits of what we did this year comparatively. We have 30 health and safety findings and 32 radiation safety findings. As we continue to roll out revised corporate procedures, one that were in 2018, you can see the ones that were rolled out 2018 on this slide. And in 2019, this is the list of revised corporate procedures that will come into play in 2019. HPI and ICAM training as a company this year. There were 2 training sessions. 48 people were trained, and it was compressed into a shorter time frame, and it combined HPI and ICAM. And so we had 2 additional people from the site, Bob and Sheila, that attended that training this year. Another was changing vendors for from work care to core medical management. Started at the 1st of 2019, and essentially we'll be doing through them as a different provider the things that we did through work care previously. So they'll have injury case management services that we can utilize by a phone call, and our and a new partnership with them as the transition occurs this year. KPI tool was rolled out in 2018. Around mid-year officially, so indicating and it has both leading and lagging indicators, so activities like safety suggestion, and the lagging indicators of course are recordability rates and things of that nature. Again, it's a tool for us to use in continuing improvement by keeping visibility of those things that will lead to improved safety performance. In 2019, things that will be rolled out is a risk assessment tool, some additional emphasis on contractor management, and a revised training management system that would also include some third-party computer-based training modules. Hazard assessments for PPE, dovetailing those into our JHAs, and then also our crisis management or incident management will be worked on in 2019. Human equipment interface, this is the one mentioned for the risk assessment tool, and it's going to focus on that second bullet. High risk for fatality is at the equipment human interface, and a continuous improvement with our traffic management plan and processes throughout the site where pedestrians and vehicles intersect. What have we done at Irwin? The work signs, speed limits, the traffic management plan that's been rolled out, put in additional mirrors, lighting both inside and out, and then continuous improvement through suggestion programs or observations or just things that people become aware of as they're doing work. The things on our to-do list, of course, we'll redo the internal perception survey mid-year, continue with our employee involvement management commitment. I think we're doing pretty good on this metric. Continue to implement the corporate programs as they come out and refine our PPE assessments. I think we're getting better at our contractor site-specific orientations, and then we're still working on these, but how can we, that I mentioned earlier with the safety perception survey, and see if we can really nail down why the reinforcement and recognition piece seems to not be at least hitting the target or perceiving to hit the target, and then additional work on the SEDS equipment to make it more of a permanent installation. Radiation safety initiatives for 2018 were the TEDI goal of 70R, and we achieved 59, which was 85%. Instrumentation upgrade, remote monitoring improvements, continuous, new sample storage in the lab, and then continue to train RP staff through internal and external offerings, and this in 2018 no NOVs or other citations. For 2019, again, we'll have a TEDI goal of 45R. Looking at changing our respiratory protection to improve our ability to do work. Some new SAM monitors installed and calibrated. Try to reduce or eliminate hand contamination through work practices and PPE. Continuous improvement in terms of reducing our dose and the others you can see the remainder of this slide. It's time for questions, since this is a video rendering of this presentation. If you have questions or comments, then please bring those up to your supervisor or any of the site leadership, and we'll try to address those as they're brought up. The 2018 radiation safety metrics. Again, as a corporation, trying to keep our dose as with the ALERA concept, and that we've never exceeded a limit, and the individual expectations. Here you can see the collective TEDI over time for the company from 2006 through 2018. Maximum individual, as you can see, has varied over that same timeline. The average TEDI, of course, a lot of this would looks very like some big swings, but remember, this is an average number, and organizational realignments and so forth can contribute vastly to this number. And here are the PCE trends. A big spike, and but level before and trending in the right direction now. So the ERS radiation safety summary. We covered this earlier, that we had 85% of our end of year TEDI goal. One individual had 2785, and as we all know, we had some challenges early in 2018. We had a lot of extensions for requests for extensions, but did not exceed any of our admin limits. 7 PCEs and 5 were skin contamination. You see the areas of improvement that were on a previous slide as well. Okay, so the next...
Ask questions, understand, and sign the briefing and the RWP. And then make sure you have all necessary tools and equipment on hand prior to entry. Remove any unnecessary material, such as boxes, packing material, anything like that, prior to entry. At Energy Solutions, a system called HIS-20 is used to process RWP logins and dose. To log into HIS-20, ensure you have the appropriate RWP for the work being performed. Verify the correct TLD on person, including additional TLDs, for example, finger rings, etc. Verify your electronic dosimeter is in calibration, turned on, and set to the proper dose rate and aggregate settings. Also, make sure the ED is worn adjacent to your TLD and in correct orientation so that you can view the display. Make sure both are attached securely. Depending on the situation, dosimetry may be worn on the inside of the PPE and sometimes in plastic bags taped to the exterior of your PPE. Note that HIS-20 will deny an entry if your training is expired. Always don your PPE as specified on the RWP. The donning sequence typically goes something like this: glove liners, then boot liners, anti-C coveralls or Tyvek, outer boots, which are usually rubber shoe covers, outer gloves, then tape your wrists and ankles if required. Don your respirator if required, and put on a head cover if required. Note that if you believe your PPE is inadequate for the job, or you find that it is damaged during work, for example, you tear your gloves, tell someone so that the PPE may be upgraded. When donning a negative air respirator, make sure you are clean shaven. Inspect the respirator looking for any defects. Loosen the straps. Don the respirator and then tighten the straps. Perform a positive and negative seal check by covering the filters with your hands and then drawing and exhaling air. Make sure no air leaks by. After entering the RCA and performing work as specified in the appropriate procedure, work instruction, JHA, and RWP, exit the RCA by doffing your PPE in correct order in order to minimize release and transfer of radioactive material outside the RCA onto yourself or to another person. Start by removing tape, then outer boots, outer gloves, and any head covering you have on. Remove your respirator next. Now remove coveralls or Tyveks, then boot liners, then glove liners as you step out of the RCA. A good practice when removing your respirator is to bend over at the waist or tilt your head down prior to removing it. Your facility will likely have step-off pads or sticky step-off pads. Make sure these are clean and not contaminated, in consideration of discrete radioactive particles and other contamination. To perform your exit contamination survey, you will either use a PCM of some type or perform a manual frisk. To use a PCM, step into the machine and rotate to other side when the counts are done. If the PCM alarms, note the location of potential contamination and step out. After the PCM is reset, step back in for a second attempt. If the second count is clean, exit the PCM and move to log out of HIS-20. If still contaminated after the second count, step out of the PCM but remain in the RCA and contact an RST for support. Manual frisk methods may be whole body or hands and feet. Either way, maintain the probe 1/2 inch from the surface at a rate of 1 to 2 inches per second. Listen for any increase in counts and pause on an increased count rate. Notify an RST if you find greater than 100 net counts per minute above background. Do not frisk if the background is 300 counts per minute or greater. Ensure all equipment and materials such as radios, clipboards, etc. are surveyed by an RST or by using approved survey equipment such as a SAM prior to exiting the RCA. Lastly, you must log out of HIS-20. Place the ED in the reader and follow instructions. Note your year-to-date remaining TEDI. Ensure you also know your TEDI dose limit. Remove the ED from the reader when HIS-20 instructs. Thank you for watching this video, and be safe out there.